Since the last few weeks were such a busy time for me, I decided that I just wanted to escape everything for a short while. So, I came up with an idea. Having discovered that the most remote place in England was just a couple of hours drive away, I thought that this would make for the perfect adventure. So, after doing a little research and finding the precise point of this location, I headed out there for an overnight adventure into the middle of nowhere land. Man, I am isolated.
This place is terrifying, honestly. Look at this. Welcome to Moor. Then up here, a load of dead rabbits.
Despite the dodgy start of the adventure, I began the walk into what seemed like nothingness. Full of animal traps and a plethora of dead animals, the place wasn't giving me the best first impressions, but I still had bigger worries.
Clearly, there's quite a few fires around here, which, to be honest, is a bit of a concern. I don't want to get burnt alive at night, but I do need to be aware of them. Even this gate's been on fire at some point. So apparently that's a path, but it's definitely getting quite hard to follow. And soon enough, there's not going to be a path at all. I'm just going to be on the open moorlands, and that is going to be hard to navigate.
With a compass, a map and a phone, I wasn't too concerned about getting lost here, and it felt like I had no reason to either, since there were still people here, and a small road.
So I'm about an hour away from the spot which has been dubbed, or given the title of, the most remote spot in England. And to think that there's still cars, and a road here that cars can drive down, it shows that it's not really that remote.
At this point, I believed that I was just an hour away from the spot, but as I headed deeper into the moorland, I realised I was totally wrong. The landscape got nicer as I began to leave civilization, but it also became harder to walk through, with taller grasses and bogs. And for anyone who's seen the movie The Hills Have Eyes, I was truly beginning to feel like I was in it, as I noticed the reflection being shone at me from a distance.
If ever there's been a time where I felt like I'm in a horror film, it's 100% now. And to make matters even worse, I don't even have signal anymore.
But after a while of walking through the natural landscape, out of nowhere, evidence of humanity had returned.
This spot is meant to be the most remote spot in England, but I've got to be honest, it doesn't feel like that at all. Everywhere you go, there's signs of life. I've not seen a person now for probably an hour and a half, but there's building work almost everywhere you look. What is going on here? It looks like Hawkins' lab or something. What is that? It's got to be said, all this stuff is a bit weird. It's like they've said, look, no one comes here. Let's slap the alien research facility on it. And there it is. Mental.
But as the signs of humanity left, so did the blissful silence.
5 minutes ago it was perfectly silent. What is this place? Where am I?
Thankfully, this didn't last, and I continued the walk deeper into the moorland and further away from all signs of humanity. It was here where nature roamed, and this time it was actually still alive. Streams ran through the moorland, adding to the sounds of the natural landscape as cotton grew in the fields, swaying in the wind, and human footprints had been replaced by those of smaller life forms. Sadly, out in this remote landscape, not everything was still alive, but even that couldn't take away from the peacefulness of this land.
Okay, this is remote, this is isolated, and there is no sign of life in sight. Hang about, we're in the most remote part of England. There's a boat. What is going on? Hang about, that's not a boat, is it? That's a bit of a plane.
Out in this vast landscape, by nothing other than sheer coincidence, I'd stumbled across a large chunk of a crashed plane.
It's got a wooden frame. This is an old plane wreckage. There's not even any human footprints. That is insane.
After some time admiring the site, I continued on to complete my mission, and by now I could truly sense the feeling of isolation out here in this amazing location.
I'm still probably an hour away, maybe half an hour away. I'd say an hour. I misjudged this quite badly. The grass is so much thicker than I expected, terrain is all uphill. I guess I better just crack on with it and see how quickly I can get to the spot. Let's go.
I was honestly feeling somewhat exhausted at this point, with the rough and constantly uphill terrain doing me absolutely no favours, whilst the land was super boggy, and large holes which had now formed hidden ponds continued to slow me down.
Ooh. Oh boy, that was knee deep. Oh, that's cold. Unless I get stuck in another hole, I should be less than 10 minutes away. This has taken so much longer than planned. Well, I think we've made it. I think that's it. I hope that's it. Okay, no, apparently that's just a random rock. It's down this way.
As I ventured further into this untouched landscape, I'd finally reached my destination.
That has to be it. We've made it. I am currently the most isolated person in the whole of England. Wow.
After hours of walking deep into the moorlands of Yorkshire, I'd finally completed the challenge and located what I believed to be the most remote point in England.
We've done it. Yes. We did it.
Around 2.5 miles away from the nearest road, and even further from the nearest village, I was feeling the isolation here. Whether or not this really was the most remote spot in England didn't even matter at this point, since being surrounded by such an incredible landscape, with no sounds aside from those of nature, gave this place an incredible and unmatched feeling of peacefulness. The exact feeling that I'd come out here to find.
So, we made it. Honestly, the journey here was pretty intense and I did not think it would be that hard at all. Yeah, I guess I miscalculated it quite a lot. But yeah, we are here, and to be honest, I think it was worth the journey. You know, the sunset was so nice and it is honestly really peaceful out here. Those horror movie vibes have gone for now. I think I'm going to try and get some sleep in a minute, but it's just nice to be sat here in a place that is so quiet and peaceful. Other than bird noises and running water in the distance, there's no noise whatsoever. In a way, it's quite surreal. Well, I'm in the tent. Listen to the surface that I'm sleeping on. Feels like I'm sleeping on a bag of very salty crisps, but it's kind of comfortable. Anyway, today's been a sick adventure. Hopefully I make it through the night. If I do, that means I survived.
Thankfully, I survived.
Not dead. Well, that is the end of this adventure. So, for me, it's time for a long trudge back. But unless something amazing happens, that is the end of this video. So, yeah, thanks for watching.
Nothing too spectacular did happen, although I did encounter some people at the Alien Research Lab, which actually turned out to be a water facility. Or so they say. Sadly, I did lose the compass which I'd had since I was a child, which led to me getting lost and finding yet another peaceful spot, which, to be quite honest, made for the perfect ending for this adventure.